Hi, and welcome to episode 11 of the Informing Choices mini-pod. 5 episodes ago, we managed to scratch the surface of the future of education. So my guest on that day, Santiago Figueroa Diaz, has agreed to come back and share more of his thoughts. This time, we're going to focus on the classroom in 2030 and integrating organic education. Santiago, a very warm welcome back to the podcast. First of all, tell us what you mean by organic education.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for inviting me again. And it's a pleasure to be talking with you again about this subject. It's a passion of mine, education. Let's go straight into the point. Organic education basically is a system that promotes learning in a natural state. It's like organic farming. So it develops from within the student, within the child, as a whole organic being. We are organic beings as humans. So, and the idea is to stimulate the innate curiosity about a topic, a concept, a problem, or idea, and then seek out some methods to satisfy this curiosity through exploration, because you need to know that the motivation to learn is intrinsic. It radiates from within. Now, the organic education has 4 main pillars, and is based in health, care, fairness, and ecology. And I think I'm going to try to describe very briefly one of those each points.
Yeah.
So what do I mean for health? So health looks into the well-being and development of the student as a whole, as I said before, not just intellectually. We don't focus just on the academic bit of the development of as a child, because the physical development, the emotional development, and the spiritual development is a key part as well for the whole being. As we were talking before, we're not just fragments, we're a whole. So as an organic educational system, we need to look the child as a whole entity. Okay. By care, what do I mean by care? So to do this, we need to create optimum conditions for the students for learning and development. And what do I mean with optimum conditions? We're talking about the physical environment, the surroundings, where the learning is gonna be, where they're gonna study. So we look into the traditional way of schooling, with these big blocks and the same layout, facing forward, a teacher in front. Well, we need to create a different environment, more amicable, more friendly, more cozy, we can say in a way. Fairness. What do I mean by fairness? We need to recognize the richness and uniqueness of each individual's talents, respecting the timing of each child maturity process.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein said, if you judge a fish for its ability to climb a tree, that fish will believe all his life that it is stupid. We need to recognize that each of us has precious gift, different skills, and we need to recognize those skills. That's what I mean by fairness, recognizing those different skills and help children to work towards them.
Yeah.
And the last point, we were talking about ecology. So what do I mean about ecology? So we need to involve actively students, parents, carers, family, the whole surrounding community, strengthen links and working in synergy. And this is very important, because when you create an educational system that's communicate, connect, and work towards the community, and again, it's a whole system that's working together for a common goal. I mean, we cannot look into different educational system in different countries. We have our own reality as a country, as a region, as a city, as a council, as a town. And we need to look into those specific needs as a community.
The things that I take away from that are that actually the things that we let kids do at preschool and in early years are the things that need to be developed further rather than be left behind. Because my sense is that's kind of what happens now. So all those things you spoke about exploration, about the relationships, if you like, that are formed, the creativity, curiosity, those are all things we expect kids to do preschool and early years. And then we teach them not to do that in order to pass tests.
And that's and I kind of say a kind of an irony, because what you're saying is absolutely true. Early years education, preschool, and we focus, and I think the system, the actual system, especially here in the UK, is so rich, encourage children to explore, to be curious. But somewhere in the way up, the students start getting dormant. I mean, the education start becoming quite dull, and that spark that you can see in every child that is lost, it vanished. So somehow we need to encourage it. We need to create that same atmosphere, if we can call it that way, that we have in preschool or early years of school, and carry on through those years going up to high school. So it's interesting I was reading an article the other day, and they were saying in primary and mainly in secondary school, we are really good to identify what are you not good at, what are your weaknesses, why you are a failure. So the system stress why you're not good at math, science, this or that, but the system doesn't encourage you to discover what your strengths are, what are your gifts. And that's very interesting.
The thing that strikes me about that is that perhaps the system we have at the moment is all about raising the floor, not raising the bar. And it's raising the bar that gets us further. The other thing that strikes me in what you've said about organic education is the very human focus of those 4 pillars, be it the social nature, the nature of social interaction, the kind of ecosystem links as well. It's a very human-centric idea, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you, and again, we're going to make the analogy with the organic farming. Organic farming, they don't focus on the yield, end yield, or the end product, basically. The organic farmers, they look out the soil, the environment, the conditions. They nourish those vegetables or those crops or those livestock to create the best out of the nature that comes within. And in organic education, it's exactly the same. We're focusing the individual, the child as a whole. We are not just testing and thinking about the grades and then what kind of degree they're going to get into college. This is as a process. As human beings, we're born and we develop. And through our development as individuals, we live so many different situations. We don't live a straight line life, if you can call it like that.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to put it. I like that. Let's start to think then. I mean, we've kind of outlined organic education. We've looked at those 4 pillars. But what I'm really interested in is if we look forward perhaps 10 years to 2030, which I know is 9 years, but anyway, what do we think the learning focus will be in 2030? Will students be able to learn at their own pace, with their own interests, their own capabilities? So what do you think the basic requirements that all kids will need to learn in 2030?
Well, what you're saying is true, and I hope we won't wait till 2030 to start doing it. Hopefully this organic education is not new. There is a whole movement, and anyone who is interested listen to this podcast as interested to could go into the internet and look for it. There are John Dewey, and a philosopher educational, an American educational, was proposing this type of education at the beginning of the 20th century. This is not new, and obviously the mass testing or the economical needs as well, and from our industrialized world, has been pushing us quite hard into the industrialized way of education. And again, the focus on industrialized is testing and standard. And what we need to teach looking into 2030, we need to look at, and again, into how we help students to discover their gifts. And today, especially in secondary education, students, they learn how to pass a test. And there is something that they're not learning at all, and it's quite key: communication and interpersonal skills. And I think that's one of the key things that there needs to be teach school from now on. Communication and interpersonal skills. We got brilliant people, technicians, engineers, doctors, lawyers, politicians. They don't have personal skills. And if you look back, in the old days, one of the first things we were taught were manners, with two key words, please and thank you. And I think today we have lost quite a lot of that. Good morning, manners, social skill, communication skill. If we're going to build strong communities, we need to have a strong personal and communicational skills. And that's one of the key we need to start teaching or focus more into these students looking to the 2030. Another thing that we need to start teaching right now is a real and usable work skill at every step of the education process. So making sure that tomorrow's students have the skills to live whenever they step off the educational trail. What do I mean with this? Today, if a student drop out of school, probably will say they don't have any future. They need to go to a college and then to have a university degree or even do a master degree to get a good job and good paid salary. If in that way, if it's studying at university, they drop out or get into the master degree, they drop out, they're going to have just a few more skills that if they could have done at high school. The system has to teach them skills that if they design any point of their educational path,
right,
they're going to have the skills to live, well, we can say a comfortable life, even though having 1 or 2 years exploring, doing something that in some point they're going to come back to whatever they want to study or whatever they want to develop. So in that sense, the focus needs to be hands-on learning. So it's not just reading and making tests or writing essays. We need to start doing more exploration work, learning by practicing, learning by doing. Instead of doing a trigonometry exercise with pen and paper, let's go to a field. Let's go to a farm, and let's see how the trigonometry works in that farm or in that land.
It sounds to me as if the thing that would need to happen to enable that is the role of teachers and support staff needs to change. So do teachers and support staff become facilitators, guides, advisors, be that on the kind of the practical and some technical stuff, but also on things like wellness and social support? So do you see a significant change for the role of teaching staff?
Absolutely. And that's the point with the care or the health bit of the pillars of education. Teachers, more than telling the students what to learn, they have to become a guide, like the sage guiding the apprentices. In a sense of, they need to guide students to find their true gift and their strengths as well, and encourage them to explore, to get that curiosity out. I'm not saying there are some extreme method that they just leave they just leave children to explore by themselves and learn whatever they want to learn. I think in a sense I'm talking about a system that is structured and structured. So we set up the boundaries, and within those boundaries we place there a certain amount of topics or subjects that the students are free to learn, and they go picking and then somehow direct their own learning. And teachers, they direct or they guide that learning with approach of reflection, conversation, opinion, encourage the mistake, encourage the failure, because failure is feedback. So in a sense, and obviously you cannot do it with one teacher in front of 25 or 30 students. So classroom in 2030, hopefully before, they must have between 3 or 4 teachers in the same classroom. You got different individuals, different characteristics. So we need to have enough staff, prepare staff, train staff to look after those different individuals. It's a kind of personal education. We're living in a personalized world right now, so why not?
And I'm assuming that would necessitate a change in the physical environment as well. I mean, you mentioned earlier on about the kind of almost the rows and columns, are kind of like a spreadsheet classroom, isn't it? So presumably that would have to change to enable that more social, more human focus on education.
Absolutely. It has to be an environment that invites learning and encourages that curiosity, the exploration. Also, we need to understand as well the physiological change that teenagers go through adolescence as well. They're very important. So secondary school, perhaps they need to start a couple hours later, not 8 a.m., probably 10 p.m. They start a little bit late because their own biological process, their own maturation is different from a year 7, year 8, or year 9. So, and again, I think the environment has to be suitable for this learning to happen. So that's why a school, they need to somehow be more flexible, more like life itself. I mean, at home, the best place to study or to read, you don't sit in a table, you look into the more comfortable place to do what you want to do. Schools, they need to turn into that, being in comfortable places, cozy, comfy, welcoming.
Yeah. And what do you see as kind of the critical enabling technologies? I mean, I think I know one of the things that you think, which is actually we need to be careful that we don't focus solely on technology. But how will technology enable that classroom finally, do you think?
I think, Walton, technology is playing an important role and a key role right now. And I think focusing on the skills as well, students, they must learn is IT literacy. So I think we're still a little bit behind of, there are some kids that are brilliant, they're genius with technology, but in the other end, there's still 2021 children that they are not quite good. They don't speak that language yet. Yeah. So we need to use technology as a tool that helps that learning process. As if you say nowadays, you got different applications, rather mobile or internet based, that somehow help students to learn with some activities, games, stories, movies, etc. But I think technology, they need to tend to look into more personalized education, in a sense that when you interact with that technology, there is in some way the technology start detecting you strengths as a learner as well, and encourage you to learn into that way, and as well presenting challenges in a way that you certain you're going to overcome. Yeah. But not saying everyone is going to be easy, but give you the right level of difficulty that you're going to be comfortable to take on. And if you fail, you're going to do it again. If you fail, you're going to do it again in a different way. I think technology, if we are clever enough to use it, could play an outstanding role in helping students to learn in an organic way.
Santiago, that's been absolutely marvelous. The particular thing that I'll take from what you've told us over the last 15 minutes or so is education for life, which I think is an absolutely wonderful way to think about how we should enable young people to learn going into the future. Santiago, thank you so much again for your time. And thank you everyone for listening. Do let your friends and colleagues know about the Informing Choices mini pod, and I'll see you on a future episode very soon.